Tallarico, and this is a new edition of Perspectives from the Sky on this 13th day of May 2023. A lot coming up this week. First, and I know a lot of you go, whew, finally, Mercury goes direct. That happens late tomorrow, the 14th, um, like around past 8 o'clock Pacific, past 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern. You can pretty much consider the 15th of May the first really full day of Mercury direct. And then always you got to remember that with Mercury, when it goes direct, you have to give it give it a good week to 10 days before it's gotten back to speed and it's totally back to normal. But pretty much you should feel, you know, Mercury going back direct and things beginning to clear up. But full clarity will take a little bit of time. But if you've been putting off decisions or putting off starting major projects of any sort, I think that's been wise. But now is time coming up when you can start those new projects and make those big decisions if you've been putting them off. But this is an important time period coming up. I'll tell you a couple other things too. Remember, Pluto went into Aquarius in March. That's a big new movement. You know, it hasn't been in Aquarius since 1797. So that's a lot of years. Pluto moves very, very slowly. Um, so Pluto in Aquarius is important, especially because now, as opposed to then, you know, we're in the Age of Aquarius, which started on winter solstice of 2020. Remember, also, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, 1777 to 1797, we're talking about revolutions, American Revolution and French Revolution. And then to add to the synchronicity of that time period, Uranus, the Aquarius planet, was discovered in 1781 during the time of Pluto in Aquarius and during the time of two important revolutions on our planet. So you can feel pretty assured that the Pluto in Aquarius will be bringing a great big, since we've already gone into the Age of Aquarius, a great big wave of movement forward into the Age of Aquarius. Pluto will stay in Aquarius this time for like 20 years. It's gonna go back into Capricorn this year for a little while, then back into Aquarius, and then back into Capricorn just for a very little while in 2024, then back into Aquarius, and then for the next 20 years after that, it will be in Aquarius. So that'll be the cleaning out of anything that's toxic or not energetically aligned with Aquarius or the consciousness of Aquarius, which is what we are all doing, whether we know it or not. Some are letting it in, some are having a hard time and are resistant, but we're letting in new consciousness of Aquarius, new consciousness of the age of Aquarius is what we're letting in. Remember those revolutions back in the day during the late 1700s? They were about, you know, no more kings and queens. That's what both France and the United States did. Let's break away from the kings and queens and let's set up a world where we, the people, create our own world, create our own destiny, make our own decisions. So it wasn't just about kings and queens, it's about any authority figures that robbed the people of the ability to create their world. As the American Constitution said, of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we believe in that and in those principles. And so you'll see over these next 20 years a movement more toward of the people, by the people, and for the people. And you can see that most of this world is nowhere near that. So it'll take some revolutionary energy and a lot of evolutionary movement to get to that place. One of the first things that's going to happen, that's already happening, is any empires or superpowers in the world are going to be brought into more equality, which is an Aquarian principle also. Equality, and also written in the American Constitution about equality. So what you're seeing in the world, as ugly as it gets and is going to get sometimes, underlying reason is to bring that world of equality more clearly forward. And diversity within unity, of course, is a part of this movement toward equality and toward an Aquarian age community. Um, diversity within unity means that everybody, every country, every culture, every person is allowed their distinct individuality, not only allowed, but respected for their distinct individuality. And then with all the distinctive individual people consciousnesses brought into unity consciousness. So this is not something that's been really tried on a large scale, because most unity, think about it, most unity is everybody has to be the same. If you join a certain club, everybody's got to be the same. Country, they try to get everybody the same. Religion, try to get everybody the same. We're talking about true diversity, the distinct individuality of each person, culture, nation, respected. And then from that place, we create unity. Not as easy as it sounds in theory. You know that. Us against them stops that ability. That's why the us versus them, which creates all these wars, the us versus them is what is an important part of consciousness that we need to move beyond. Because us versus them oftentimes happen if you're not like me, if you're not in my club, my country, my religion, then you're my enemy. That's what creates these wars. That's what creates the separation. There's a philosophy that was started by, started by many people, but that evolution is survival of the fittest. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I think the way that it's interpreted is wrong. Survival of the fittest at this point in our evolution, in our consciousness evolution, is about all the kind of consciousness that knows that all of us need to be together and seen as all in the same family, and that this same family survives together. That's what makes us fit in survival now, is having a consciousness of unity, a consciousness of connectedness, a consciousness of opposites being encircled in unity. This is the new place in consciousness that we need to go. So in a way, it's still survival of the fittest, but fittest has a different definition. It's not I'm better than you and I survive and you don't. It's you and I survive together. Because take a look at what the world has in it. Chemical and nuclear weapons. They're made to destroy the other. They're made for destruction in the us versus them wars. We need to move quickly and rapidly into new consciousness. And what's happening in the world will push a lot of people to that consciousness. It'll also push a lot of people further into the consciousness that is prevalent right now, which is the us versus them consciousness. So work on your own consciousness. That's where we're moving. So Mercury going back direct. Great. Next step, Taurus new moon on the 19th of May, which is next Friday. So from now, this is Saturday, the 13th, from now until the 19th on Friday, we are in a darkening of the moon every single day. Now, some lights went on or will go on as Mercury goes direct, but the darkening moon will still be happening. Then on the 19th, Mercury not only is direct, but it's had about 5 or 6 days of being direct. So it's starting to move back to its normal speed. And then the new moon in Taurus moves us forward. It'll do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to end the eclipse season, that new moon in Taurus. But secondly, it's going to take what was begun at the Aries solar eclipse new moon, which was let's go forward into this new chapter of life powerfully. That was a powerful new moon square Pluto and conjunct Jupiter in Aries. It's a new chapter. It was more than just the normal new moon. It was new chapter of life. Look around you in your life. Look at the world out there. We are definitely moving into a new chapter of our lives now. Then Mercury went retrograde the very next day after that solar eclipse new moon in Aries. And it said to us, whoa, pause, reflect, rewind a little bit. Rewind often means remembering things in the past, people in the past coming back in our memory, in our dreams, in real life, to get us to get our consciousness ready for the new chapter of life once Mercury goes back direct and the new moon in Taurus happens. So Aries is like the force of something starting. It's like the sign of springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere. Powerful, the buds coming out from the branches, sperm rushing to the womb. This is Aries. Taurus is fixed earth. So think about that. Aries is cardinal fire, initiating fire, lighting a match, getting things going. Taurus, fixed earth, takes that energy and grounds it, secures it, manifests. So you had your new moon eclipse in Aries. You had Mercury retrograde saying, stop, pause, go over the past a little bit, get things in order. And now Mercury goes direct. Things have been put in order. Things are getting more clear. And then the new moon in Taurus solidifies the new movement into the new chapter. So a lot of events will happen after the new moon in Taurus. Eclipse season shakes things up, gets us out of this place, lets us know change is coming, change is here. So if you've been shaken up out of your normal way of looking at things, out of your status quo life in any way, mentally, emotionally, in truth of your life, that's to get you and us on our toes, so to speak, ready for the changes to come in. So the changes will come in more and more after that new moon in Taurus. This is going to be a shortened version today, by the way, probably about half an hour. And the next week I'm going to come on again. So some other things that are happening this week. So on the 14th into the 15th, Mercury goes direct. On May 17th, remember, Pluto's recently in Aquarius. On the 17th, Jupiter has just recently moved into Taurus, out of Aries at that time. And from that place, we'll be exactly squaring Pluto in Aquarius. Feel the energetic here. Jupiter is expansive in a big way. Pluto, guardian of the underworld. Do you see? Way up, way down below. This is intense. This is intense. And it's not personal as much, although some people can feel the more impersonal energies like Jupiter and transpersonal Pluto. So there'll be a lot out in the world that's intensifying, but also in your consciousness too. That'll probably be happening is you'll feel that Jupiter square Pluto, which is going to get closer and closer. And then you'll be on the 17th, which is what, 4 days from now. So it's Wednesday, 17th, Jupiter square Pluto. And that's just the beginning, man. Because on the 20th, a couple days after the Jupiter square Pluto, Mars in Leo will be opposing that Pluto in Aquarius. And on the 23rd, it'll exactly square that Jupiter in Taurus. So in effect, there's a T-square that's being set up. Mars in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius, square Jupiter in Taurus. That's the T-square. And that is intensification of energy. And a large part of it in the meaning on a deeper level is bringing in the Age of Aquarius. Bringing in the Age of Aquarius. Remember, a lot of that is bringing down the old established world. So please keep in mind in the bigger picture that that's part of what is needing to happen. You can't build a new world unless you let go of the old world. How else can you do it? A lot of you have probably gone through a lot of transformational things in your life, like maybe you had a marriage that ended, or a relationship that ended, or a job that ended, or it's time to move away from your birth family. All sorts of big transformational movements where you can't move forward into something new unless you're letting go of where you've been. You can't take it with you. You can take it with you in your heart, but you can't physically take it with you. You have to let it go. So unfortunately, the world that we've created is so toxic and corrupt and unfair in so many cases that it has to come down. So be ready for that. Be ready for that. But remember this: your life has to do with where you are in your consciousness. So it doesn't mean that you are going to be suffering horrible things because the old world is crumbling. You can still make your life work according to your authentic self and your personal destiny. Look back in the time just here in the United States, look back in the late 20s when the stock market crashed, and then the 30s when the United States was in a depression, and then early 40s when it was in the Second World War, or even go back before the 20s when the First World War happened between 1914 and 1919. That was a lot that people went through in this country during those times. Maybe like your parents or your grandparents, your great grandparents, went through a lot during those times with depression and wars. They survived. They made it through those times. They made it through those times. So just know that in your life, same way, you can still create the life that's right for you and the destiny that's right for you, no matter what's falling down around you. In fact, a lot of you will actually have more voice, more say in that world because you were born to be here during these times. You were born to be here during these changing times. And finding your role, your purpose within all that is a part of what has been happening and will continue to happen for all of us. Judy Ann Masters, hi. I just saw your note. Hi. Good hearing from you. That's in the chat box. So a few things of that world falling in and falling down. And by the way, also the sun, even though there's a new moon in Taurus on the 19th, the sun moves in Gemini on the 21st. And that'll change some of the energy too. Some of the Taurus fixed Earth. You get that Gemini energy, which is mind going fast and things going faster. So the things will be conflicting that way. You have that Taurus energy, but then you're also going to have that T square with Pluto and Aquarius, and you're going to have the sun moving into Gemini next on the 21st, next Sunday. So just kind of go with the changes, but it's going to be definitely changing tides this week and next, this coming week and the next week. Changing tides, but a lot of it's for more clarity and for a sense of moving forward. Now, out in the bigger world, I'm telling everybody about Israel, right? How that was going to be important during the eclipse season. Well, now there's a conflict going on in Israel with the Palestinians, and Palestinians from Gaza Strip have been sending rockets into Israel, even aiming at Jerusalem, Tel Aviv also, and the Israelis going in and setting up lots of killing fields of bombs in the Gaza Strip. Um, and then Iran's involved behind the scenes in that too. And you can see that a lot in the Arab world. People are coming together, even people who have been opposed to each other, like Saudi Arabia and Iran. So they are getting together. They're getting together also with Russia and China. Do you see how things are starting to form now in the world? And like I've been writing and telling people for a long time now, the Middle East is the place to watch. Because what happens in the Middle East is important because it has so much of the old world in it. So many of the old religions, in fact, had some of their beginnings in Jerusalem, Muslim, Christian, Judaism in Jerusalem. So that's where a lot's going to happen, because a lot of major civilizations and religions began in the Middle East, most specifically in Jerusalem or in those areas. So that's where we're going to have a lot of the turmoil will be in that area. But I've also been letting you know the USA culture war is going to intensify, and it has been. Trump, our ex-president, is up for all sorts of things with that January 6th, 2021, trying to overthrow the Capitol, overthrow the government, not believing in the elections and how they turned out. That's still going on. I think he was just in a civil suit. He was just found liable of molesting or raping a woman. That jury found him to be liable for that. That's adding to his woes. So a lot of people say, well, that's justice. A lot of other people that are part of his base say they're angry and they're going to cause more fuss. Taiwan during this eclipse season has been heating up. United States against China, that's getting stronger. Ukraine and Russia, also strong. NATO, the United States, sending lots of bombs and weapons there. I can tell you that I think that war is wrong for us to get involved in it. We're sending billions of dollars there and adding to the deaths all through that area. There's a new voice in politics, kind of a new voice. RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is now running in the primaries against Joe Biden for the nomination, Democratic nomination for president. What are some of the things he believes? Immunizations are wrong. We shouldn't be having them. What else does he believe? The war in Ukraine and war in general. Wrong. Let's move beyond that. What else does he believe? CIA had a role in his father's and probably his uncle's. His father for sure, he said. No, his uncle for sure, he says. John F. Kennedy and his father, most likely. The CIA was involved in both of those assassinations. So he's saying a lot of things that are really outside of the norm, kind of looking into a new way of looking at everything, out of the conventional programming that we've had. Whether all that he's saying is true or not is not the point. The point is that he's looking outside the box, which is where we all need to be looking, not at silly conspiracy theories, but at potential facts that change the way that we look at things. So the mainstream media has not done much with the RFK run for president. Not much at all, actually. And they probably won't cover it if they can, even though this is a man who's, got Kennedy blood and had his father and his uncle assassinated, and he's got a lot of intelligent things to say. So the world is changing. The world is changing fast. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop everybody. What can you do? I think most of you that listen to this show are on some kind of a spiritual path, or at least on a path of evolving your consciousness. That us versus them must go. Seeing all of us connected, everything connected. This is what happens in the universe. There's a strong force in the universe for connection, for everything to be connected. And if you get on that frequency of knowing and feeling everything connected, all of a sudden the synchronicities and the magic start getting stronger in your consciousness. You start seeing the magic more. You start knowing that we live in a world of connections. That universe is run by love and truth. Love and truth. We humans have been given the power of choice. Like I like to say, if I gave you a park to play in, that was your park, you can do what you want with it, a huge park, and you destroyed the park, please don't blame me for the destruction of the park. And please don't blame the universe or God or goddess or whatever your words are for what's happening on the earth now. We have the power of choice, and we can choose love and truth and connections, or we can choose us versus them, hatred, fear. Really, you have it in your power. If you've been programmed to think in the other way and you really want to come forward in this new way, get into some meditation. You can find all sorts of meditations on YouTube. You can find all sorts of meditations by looking at your metaphysical bookstores in your area and finding out where they're at, the classes. There's all sorts of things you can read that will take you into this new world. So it's up to you to change and to help change this world. It's up to all of us to help change this world. So this week is a changing week. Mercury goes back direct. We start feeling the end of the eclipse season. We start feeling the beginning of a world outside the eclipse season, but also of a grand new chapter in our human lives on Earth. It's a grand new chapter as we leave this eclipse season. Remember that Aries, solar eclipse, new moon in Aries, that was powerful message. You're moving into a new chapter of your life on Earth here. Mercury retrograde slowed it down a little bit. The new moon in Taurus is going to make it where it's solid and you know that you're in this new world. So we're coming back next week. Deborah will be on next week with me. And we'll also have on Joanne Halverson. Joanne Halverson is a shamanic counselor who lives in the state of Washington. And she has created on one of the islands that she lives on in Washington a mini matriarchal society. I want to hear from her what that's like. And she'll be on next week, which will be the 20th of May 2023. So in the meantime, enjoy this week coming up. Realize that the tides are shifting this week. Kind of roll with it. It will be time to move forward. And a lot of us, some of us said, oh, God, I'm getting kind of comfortable. Maybe I don't want to move forward. Well, you got to move forward a little bit, maybe actually in a big way. Tameshka, also, thank you for saying that. I'm glad to hear that you're with us today, too. And I'll see you all next week on the 20th at our usual 1 o'clock Pacific time. I'll see you at Mercury Direct. I'll see you the day after the new moon. And take care until then. Love you all. Bye.